Hey, what's up, guys? I act like I can't talk. How long have I been doing this? It's time for another episode of Reggie's Expressions. I have a friend to the room, celebrity to the company that we work for, and I don't want to get this wrong. So if I sound nervous, it's because I'm in front of royalty here. Uh, Miss Rachael Vargas, how are you?
Hey, I'm good, Reggie. Thanks for having me on the show.
No worries, no worries. I appreciate the enthusiasm in which you were like, yeah, absolutely. Just kind of it was a very casual conversation between you and I was like, hey, would you be interested? And he was like, yeah, sure. So I appreciate that because a lot of sometimes it's hard to align people, in terms of my schedule versus their schedule and stuff like that. So. I absolutely get it. But I want to first start by telling everybody thank you so much for listening to all the episodes. Looks like you guys have found them over on Podbean. Just to remind you guys, we're not loading any new content on Spotify at all. And I'm not going to rehash that whole situation, but I just would much rather continue on with, Podbean. And they have a lot better analytics over there. So, you do get what you pay for, and I'm pretty happy with Podbean so far. So, yeah. So Rachael and I know each other because we work for the same company. And Rachael at one point was a trainer of mine. I think shortly after I got done with training, there was this special project that she was a part of, and that's kind of how we got to know each other. And I was really good friends with Matt, who was on her team on Outbound. So that's also how we become closer. So the first question I like to ask everybody that comes on is, how are you? How is Rachael doing?
Ooh, that sounds really deep. I can't just respond with I'm good, things are great.
Right.
Well, you mentioned that you're nervous, so I'm a little nervous too. I value and respect you, and ever since I worked with you at Liberty, it's been nice staying in touch with you. I was really happy when you friend requested me. I was like, oh, it's Reggie, and every time I think of you, it's always like, it's Reggie. Like, you're the best.
Thank you.
So aside from being nervous, I would say, every single day is just trying to, I guess, keep my mind straight so I can stay focused on my goals and keep pushing forward, putting my best foot forward, being the best that I can be. So, it's a battle always.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean? So I would say, to be very honest, I am always staying on top of myself, and that takes a lot of work, but it's good work, so it pays off.
Yeah. So she told you the company that we work for. I'm not going to repeat it because it's fine. I work for Liberty Mutual. I worked for them for 3 years. I've been with them for 3 years, and I've taken on a new position with help desk. So it's a different side of the business that I really enjoy. And that's one of the things I like about Liberty, the fact that you can dig into other places, that
Right.
might not necessarily be the traditional path of going through sales and being a manager or supervisor, so on and so forth. With supervising was not something that I wanted to do. I had done it in the past at other companies, and I'm just not interested in doing it with Liberty, But so one of the things I being at this job, being in sales, do you ever find yourself at times being, because when I see you're always bubbly, excited. I've never seen you have a bad day. Maybe it's just at the times I meet you, you're not, in a bad mood or anything, But what do you do to kind of keep focus on your goals? Let's say, for example, a couple years ago, goal was like 100 at one point, right?
Yeah.
How do you not allow that to get in your head and, become almost defeatist, if you will?
Right. Honestly, I could go very loaded on that answer, but really quick, just to kind of summarize, I would say okay, I'm going to go full in. I've been with Liberty for 9 years, and I would say that Liberty shaped me as a person, my character, my mental state, who I am. honestly, before Liberty, I never felt like a badass. Like I never
Mm-hmm,
did.
mm-hmm,
But working at Liberty and working with people who inspire you and who are also achieving their goals and making a good deal of money, and
mm-hmm,
also just helping their customers, and you feel inspired doing the job in the first place because you are helping people lead safer, more secure lives. So all of that really motivated me, and that's why I wanted to work for the company. But I was not a salesperson coming into it, you know.
mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm,
so I was shaped by the people who invested in me, my supervisors and management team, and then from there, I kind of rose to being really great at what I do, and so like there, but it deep inside of me is still that person that's like, oh, I'm gonna fail,
mm-hmm,
you know,
mm-hmm,
like
mm-hmm,
on the outside, I'm like, I'm great, I'm awesome. And that's what you have to exude if you want to make it through the day.
mm-hmm,
Sometimes I'll write on my mirror, you're a rock star, just to
mm-hmm,
remind myself that I'm awesome. Like it,
mm-hmm.
I don't just wake up like, we got this, you know, I have to like convince myself throughout the day, all day, even
Mm-hmm.
in between calls. Like back when I was doing inbound calls, I'd be at the desk and I'd put it on mute and I'd start cursing like, oh, okay, I can't believe I said that, you know, to
Mm-hmm.
my customer. Like, I hope they buy. And I'm like praying, like, please
Mm-hmm.
let
Mm-hmm.
that thing I just said push them to the threshold to buy the policy. But I'm like saying, oh shit, the whole time, you know, it's a
Right,
roller
right, right,
coaster.
right.
It's a
Um,
roller coaster.
for sure, and I can attest to that myself. You know, being in the, one of the things that Liberty used to say is, and they still say it, mental toughness. You know, you may have calls where you get zero, and then you might have that one
Mm,
call where you get, six. So it really could change the course of a day depending on, your process. And I understand where you're coming from as well, because when I first started with Liberty, I had a strong case of imposter syndrome, and
mm.
I had a strong case of imposter syndrome with starting this new job, and it was more or less like, they're gonna find out, man. They're gonna find out I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
They're gonna be like,
And
weren't you doing that thing before? Are you sure you can help me? No.
exactly,
Yeah, those are those defeating thoughts.
yeah. So you really have to kind of, check yourself. And one of the things that I thought was really helpful is I would always look at my previous month and be like, okay, well, you did it last month. You
Right.
did it the last 24 months. So the chances that, it might be difficult. Let's be real. It might be harder, and that's okay. But, at the end of the day, you've done this before. You felt what you felt. So don't allow this to be the thing that takes you out this month. So,
Yeah,
um,
exactly.
so yeah, I understand exactly where you're coming from when it comes to that.
And there are
So,
gonna be like low days, you know,
yeah,
like,
absolutely.
but then I just lean on my supervisor. I'm very honest. Like I tell my supervisor, like, you know, I'm having a really tough day. I don't think
Hmm.
I'm going to have a great day. And then they lift you up too. So you have to have a good peer support system too,
Hmm. Hmm.
to be vulnerable with, you know.
Hmm. Hmm.
And
Yeah.
all I need is like you're doing great, Rachel. And then I get back at it. So,
And I will tell you, my supervisor that I had before, I think she honestly is one of the best supervisors that I've ever had out of,
mm-hmm.
working with the company. Because I think that she understood me in a way that I don't think anybody else did. She loved the fact that I was very emotional at times, and, just a ball of energy, breath of fresh air sometimes. And, when I had moments where I was
Oh,
down,
are you there?
yes. Oh, did I cut out?
Hello?
Can you hear me? Yeah, can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me?
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you, but you can't hear me. No, you can't. So no? Uh-oh. All right, give me a second here. What about now? Refresh your screen if you can. Oh, you can't hear me. Hold on. Give me a second.
Can you
Hello.
hear me?
Yes, I can
Hello?
hear you. Yes. So I'm gonna exit out and go back in. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Cool.
Sometimes these things happen. It's not a, we're at the hands of Wi-Fi. There's probably 1,000,001 people on right now, and it's, messing with our bandwidth. So,
Mm.
um, but yeah, the one thing with that, with my supervisor that I had before, she was very understanding, and she allowed me to be who I was, and I appreciate it. I needed that in order to thrive, here, because, I like to pride myself on being, pretty well rounded. I'm not a superstar. I'm not going to, what did they call it for you guys? What's the big top thing?
Oh, like Century
COE?
Club. Oh,
COE?
COE. Yeah.
Yeah,
Now
COE.
it's DSE. There's so many other awards too that they
Hmm.
put a lot of emphasis on, but yeah,
Hmm.
COE.
Yeah, so I mean, Circle of Excellence, right? Is that what it's
Yes.
called? Okay.
Yep.
I know I did really good in my team, but but it's all relative at the end of the day. As long as you're going out and you're doing the things that you need to do, it doesn't really matter about what anybody else thinks or feels. So,
Right.
so you said that you weren't a salesperson initially. What did you do before Liberty?
So I was actually working at a restaurant
Mm-hmm.
for 4 years. I think it was like from the age of like 17
Mm-hmm.
to 21. And
Mm-hmm.
then from 21 to the age of 22 and a half, I was where I got my first call center job at Sprint. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if you know anyone that used to work at the Sprint call center over in Maitland,
Yeah.
but a lot of people came from there, from there. And I worked there for a year. I wasn't in sales though. I was in the retention department. So basically working with people who are like, I hate Sprint
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
Sprint sucks. And my job was commission based to like keep their business on the books. So retention.
Mm-hmm.
To basically say, no, don't worry, we're fixing towers in your area, and
Mm-hmm.
give them some credits or understand their issue or help them upgrade their phone or whatever their issue was to save the account from being canceled. So that was
Mm-hmm.
my job. And I remember I mean, I had my first kid when I was 20. So I left the
Mm-hmm.
restaurant industry because I needed a stable job,
Mm-hmm.
and so Sprint was a kind of a layup for me to get the job because my mom worked there on the sales
Mm-hmm.
side,
Mm-hmm.
and it was kind of like my first break to being able to find something career wise because I didn't finish college.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's my first. I've been in sales for most of my. I actually was in the military. I did my first
Oh,
job. Well, not my first job. My first job was fast food, which I think everybody's fast food.
yeah.
My first career was Army. I was in the Army.
Uh-huh.
I did that for about 5 years, and after I
Wow,
got
that's
out
a
of the
long time.
Army, yeah, after I got out of the Army, um, I've always been a gadget like guy, if you will. So I transitioned into uh, wireless sales,
Mm-hmm.
um, or actually it was new account services. So kind of like what I'm doing now is behind the scenes. So when customers would call and they need to, get approval for adding another line to their account, that's what I would do. And then I made the transition into sales in 2006. No, actually 2003. And then I had been in sales for a number of years. I've worked for all the major carriers: Verizon, T-Mobile, AT&T,
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Sprint.
okay. So you know what the industry's like.
Yeah, yeah. So, and that was pretty much my leeway into the business. And the thing I found about sales is, kind of looking over it, is very similar. It's very similar no matter where you go. I mean, there's different products and services that you sell. It's just a matter of how you present it to the customer, right?
Oh yeah.
So I found similarities, and I think that was why I was able to, transition into other sales positions fairly quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, but yeah, the thing about me though is, unfortunately, my mind goes a million miles a minute, and I think I needed
Yeah.
a change to my environment. So I decided that I wanted to try my hand out in the help desk field. And
Right.
honestly, I'd have to say that it's considerably more challenging than what I experienced in inbound.
Oh, wow. I mean,
Um,
I believe that.
yeah, like what was it? Friday I had 108 calls.
Wow.
Yeah.
I
The
mean,
day
I know
before.
I'm calling the help desk all the time. Like, you guys are honestly, um, they should take the help desk to the circle of excellence with them, because no, I'm serious, because I think they have a log of like how many times people
Mhm.
call.
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
I'm on there on the upper. No, I
No,
mean, I like
not
to
even
give
close. Not even
sound
close.
advice to my customers,
Mhm.
and I know there was back in the day, they used to, like, I had a supervisor come to me and tell me, like, Rachel, you should use Knowledge Center more. Because I noticed you are kind of, calling help desk quite a bit. But
Mhm.
I second guess myself. We all do. And the
Yeah.
last thing
Mhm.
we want is to tell our customers something,
That's not
you know,
true, or yeah.
yeah. And
Mhm.
you guys kind of just make it easy for us to understand,
Mhm.
or to feel confident about what we're saying sometimes. And
Mhm.
also sometimes, to make sure we can do things a certain way if the system's letting us do it. And it's like,
Mhm.
hey, I just need to bounce this off you. So if it
Mhm.
happens, I'm not in trouble, you know?
Mhm.
So it's always good too, because I don't like to ask for forgiveness later, you know?
No, and to be honest, being on this side, I've realized that I probably should have called help desk more. You
Oh
know what I'm
no.
saying?
Oh my
Because there were
goodness.
things that I didn't know 100% about. Because of experiences that I had had before with help desk, like, oh, do this, do that, and I would try to take, and also calling help desk that made it longer process depending on if they have a long wait time, like what we did today. But yeah, it's challenging in a way that I like it. So it's not like difficult hard. You know what I'm saying? So and I think I brought the competitiveness to it because
Hmm.
I do my best to try to outdo myself from the day before. So,
Yes. Oh wow,
if I
that's
can, I
awesome.
love having the most amount of calls. You know what I'm saying? Like that's my thing.
That's a good thing.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I got me and my coworker. She's kind of into it. Like Saturday, she was like, "Oh my God, I had 122 calls." I
Wow.
was like, I'm coming for you. So trust me, sweetie, you ain't
See,
gonna
there
have
you
that.
go.
And it's just a part of the process that I've been a part of for a long time. So it's hard to let that go.
I think a
Um,
change is necessary, and I think it's good that you're honest with yourself, like,
mhm,
that I needed to do that, because we
mhm,
all have to have that moment, like, where we look at ourselves and say, is this fulfilling in the way that I need it or want it to
mhm,
be at this
mhm.
time in my life?
Right. Yeah.
and
And,
and so to make that change, and to do something about it, it
mhm.
is a good, and it's inspiring to me. I love watching people make changes. It makes me like cry happy tears.
Well, it's to be honest, it was the structure that I needed in my life, to be able to enjoy and celebrate, my husband, because we enjoy being around each other, a
Hmm.
lot. We go travel as much as we possibly can, and us being able to do so, having this job gives me a little bit more leeway to be able to do
Yeah.
so. So I'm
Yeah.
cool with it. I enjoy the job, and I do not regret making that distinction. So, um, next question I have here. You've been with Liberty for 9 years, you said.
Hmm.
What were some of the cues that you did? And cues are the different jobs, like, inbound, so on and so forth. What are the cues that
Yeah.
you've been a part of?
So I did inbound,
Hmm.
for like 3.5 years. And then I moved from inbound to outbound.
Hmm.
And so when outbound was created, it I was like the first person on the first team,
Hmm.
that we
Hmm.
ever had in our center for it. And it was all
Hmm.
brand new. So I, like you, took a leap to just be
Hmm.
like, I need a change. And I'm a talker. Inbound is not the cue to be a talker. You have to be able to take back to back to back calls. My
That's
average
true.
handle time was like 12 and a half, 13 minutes, maybe
Hmm.
16 or 17 actually.
Hmm.
Anyway, so outbound was a great transition for me. And then outbound is what kind of was the door that opened everything else for my career at Liberty, because I won Circle of Excellence the first year that I moved to outbound. And then after that, I decided I got a taste of like leadership and being around, such inspiring leaders in the company who believed in me. And I wanted to I wanted to ride that wave of like, okay, great, I'm getting noticed. My name is out there. People know who I am, and I can't miss this opportunity, because when you're trying to move up in a company or make changes in your life, there's a certain timing to everything. Timing is everything. And so for me, it felt like the right time to dip my toes into this water to see where I could take it. So I didn't have, but I think also aside from timing, you kind of have to know what you do want, like a little bit. And maybe
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
so maybe you don't have like a hard, like, if I can't be this, then I'm not happy. Like you should have like just there, it should be very the door should just be open to whatever comes your way, but you should have some sort of an idea of what you're going to do. So I think the timing for me to move up made sense, but in my personal life it didn't, because financially I wasn't ready to make that leap, and I still love sales very, very much. But at the time I moved from inbound to outbound. Then I took our sales development specialist role.
Yeah, SDS.
And I got, and what was really cool about that is they gave me the opportunity to actually continue working alongside the outbound team before helping our new hires. So so as a sales development specialist, you're working with new hires and helping them develop their skills before they go to their supervisor. And instead of doing that, I actually was on a special project as a sales development specialist, creating all of the standard operating procedures for the whole outbound department. So I got to basically put my whole process as an outbound rep on paper and roll that out to all of outbound, so that way they could utilize that process for their new hires as like a template, like here's how to be successful in outbound. And that was like my baby, because I love outbound. I'm very proud of the work that I've done in outbound, and I love the role itself. And then from there, I did help with the new hires after that, and then it wasn't the time for growing within Liberty, so they were not accepting supervisor positions at that time. So I went back to outbound for a year, and then and then when the timing was right, went back to supervising. So I did actually become a temporary soup for 4 months. And then, like you, I decided, you know what? So much has changed, like in the world, like I was very much, I'm going to do outbound until I become a soup, and then I'm going to be a soup, and then I'm going to be a manager, and I'm going to keep climbing the ladder within the call center environment. But when the pandemic struck, because this was 2019 that I was rising to all these different roles. And then 2020, that's when I did outbound again for a whole year. And then 2021, I'm like, I need a change. And that's when I decided to go back to supervising, because we were growing and expanding again. And so many positions were opening up that I could move into a soup role pretty easily. But it didn't fulfill me the way that I thought it would, because this virtual environment, I'm not built for the long term for. I vibe off of people, I need to be around people. And because of the pandemic, my mental health was actually declining, and I'm sitting in my room by myself. And some days I would walk outside. I'm like, dang, I haven't seen the sun in a while,
Right. That's true.
So I got into this dark place. I mean, work was fine, but I wasn't like lit up inside.
Right. Fulfilled. You didn't feel. Yeah, I understand. I know exactly what that's like.
I took that time to finally be honest with myself and say, what's holding you back from moving to the field? Because the field is where you can be around people and still be a salesperson and still make money, because that's important to me. I'm a single mom. But the answer was I was afraid, very much afraid of taking a leap because I'm a single income household
Right.
and the base pay does not exist in the field, really. And so I thought to myself, wait a minute, Rachel, what are you saying to yourself, that you would move to the field and you're not going to make it? Is that really what you're telling yourself every day? Is that what's keeping you in this place? And I realized that that's not true. If I apply myself and I go out and meet people, people are going to like me. Why wouldn't they? I just have to believe enough in my hustle,
Right. Right.
and put myself in an uncomfortable position to succeed. And
Right.
Anyway, so I
It's
took that
okay to
leap
be
of
uncomfortable
faith.
sometimes, for sure. You know,
Yeah.
you got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And that, we've seen, especially being in the virtual space, like you said, we've seen a lot change, with Liberty in terms of, growth, and also how we consider, gaining customers and things of that nature. Commission structures change.
100%.
Right. So one of the things that I've always found, I've been with many different companies, is there's always this situation where, things are readjusted, like in 2020, I don't think that they had the expectation that we would do as well as we did. And they
Yes,
would
that
pay
was
out the amount of
amazing.
money. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love that year. I could do it again.
Yeah. And the
Not like
fact
with
that
what's going on in the world, but like,
hmm
yeah.
and the thing was, it was more of a windfall because, the fact that we were working from home, you know what I'm saying? And, we all got that raise, especially for me, because I live in Ocoee, you know what I'm saying? So
Yes.
it's a ways away.
Yeah.
But I think at the end of the day, when it got down to it, I suffer from anxiety, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want to be very honest and clear about that. And, unfortunately, um, sometimes just the day to day would be very difficult for me.
Yeah.
And during the pandemic, it was very, very difficult for me to sometimes maintain. And, I was just boggling and beating my head against the wall as to, why I'm struggling to hit goal. You know what I'm saying? It's
Yes.
like, I don't,
Yeah.
I'm looking over at my coworker and she's doing, top tier every month, $10,000 checks, and I'm barely
Yeah.
getting 1,600. You know what I'm saying? So that
Yeah.
started to bother me, and the anxiety got the best of me, and I had to take some time off.
Yeah.
And I also had to take some time off this year as well. And when I took the time off, this year, 2021,
21.
I made the decision. I said, you know what? If there is a position in help desk that is available, I'm going to take that as my sign.
Yeah.
And I got back
Good.
in the month of October. The first week I was there was no application. I had asked Vero, and Vero said that there was a position available. And I went and I
Vero's
looked, and
a OG.
I went and I looked, and I didn't see it. So I was like, all right, well, whatever. I would say a week after I got back, I saw it and I applied for it immediately. You know what I'm saying? So, and I got it, and I'm very excited because it does challenge me in a way that I've never. It allows me to use my brain in different ways. You know what I'm saying? To be able to accommodate, and I also like to challenge myself in terms of how quick I get it. So, I'm not a
We took the
salesperson,
leap
but
at the same time. I moved to the field in November of
okay,
last year. Yeah.
yeah. November of
And
last year is when I started this position.
when it comes to anxiety, you're not the only one. When I took the supervisor role last year, 2021, it was from like April through October, I guess. I was sales coaching, and then I eventually stepped into the sales super role. But either way, from April to October, I coached and supervised, teams of people, and I'm a very, I don't know, I'm not like a superficial person. When I make connections with people, I connect on a deep level with everybody. I can't just have superficial friendships. And so when I'm connecting with my team and I'm learning what motivates you, what inspires you, what has you in your seat here today, things like that, I use that to motivate the team and connect with them individually to, bring everybody together and go towards whatever their common goals are. However, I will tell you that lots of people were suffering from, depression, anxiety, and I know it's rough. I mean, I suffered from some serious issues last year, like mental health wise, just not just being home and being inside the house, stuck inside or what have you. I had a bad breakup and it wrecked me. It
I can
literally
imagine.
felt like I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but I didn't realize you could actually grieve somebody
Yeah.
even though they're still alive.
Yeah.
And I was going through grief and it was
Mm-hmm.
awful.
Yeah.
And there were days before I moved into the supervisor role, there were days that I was just laying in bed, like just lights off, house empty, what
Wow.
have you. It was awful. I should have taken short-term disability, but my supervisor at the time, who I was very honest with, she was the one that kept me going. She was like the little ray of sunshine in my day. And so that meant the world to me. So when I moved to the supervisor position, I said, I'm going to be like my supervisor that I had, because she was that light to me and I want to be that light to my team. But
Yeah.
when people would tell me I'm not feeling it today, I've got so much going on at home and I'm stressed and I can't meet these goals and I've got all this uphill battle going on, I'm like, I don't know what a normal supervisor is supposed to say, but for me, I'm like, look, you are incredible. You're an amazing salesperson. You're gonna crush it. Maybe not today, maybe tomorrow. Okay. Let's try to get ourselves together today. Go VTO. If you need to, I'll approve your FTO and then come back tomorrow and let's get it, But I was very honest. Even with the call volumes, like it was rough last year on inbound with the call volumes. I'm like, look, guys, I'm not gonna lie to you, like, yes, the cards are stacked against us, but we're still gonna overcome it. So I don't know what other supervisors do to lead their teams, but I'm very transparent. And because I've had my own, struggles, like I empathize greatly, with anybody in the call center environment dealing with the struggles of working from home and still trying to crush it and be our best.
Right. Be that self-starter, position, or being that self-starter that you need to be. But yeah, I mean, it's not interesting. We align in that way for sure. And it's definitely something that I continue to struggle with. But, I have the tools in place that I use to, that I have to use on a day-to-day basis. And sometimes I have to tell myself, like, I can't care anymore. I've reached a level of care. Okay, this is it, and I'm there already. You know what I'm saying? I can't do it.
Boundaries.
So, yeah, setting boundaries.
Just to protect yourself and your spiritual health.
So, since you did bring it up, and I appreciate you sharing that with me in terms of your anxiety. What are some of the things that you use or do to cope with anxiety, if you don't mind me asking?
Good question. Can't say it's all healthy.
Well, whatever works, you know what I'm saying?
I mean, okay. So to cope, I do see a therapist. I've been seeing her for the last year and a half. And, when I came to her, I told her,
You hear that, people? You hear that? She see a therapist. For y'all out here who talking about y'all don't want to, you heard that? She see one. There's nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with it. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I would not be where I am without her. I honestly, you would not see me smiling today. Period. Absolutely. Period. Best gift you can give yourself. I should have seen her when I was in my 20s. But either way, I went to her and I said, I don't know. Honestly, all I want is inner peace.
Right.
I just want peace. I want whatever these, big emotions that I'm experiencing to just want to feel normal, whatever that looks like. And I just said, peace sounds amazing. And I don't have it, because I'm always at war with myself. And so she kind of guided me down this really great journey of owning my power and really just making, it's a real interesting thing, but I would just say that's my best coping mechanism
Right.
is
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
follow it, is
That's good.
to see her every other week or so.
Hmm.
But ultimately, through when in therapy, I learned that I have some fears of being
Hmm.
alone,
Hmm.
and I also do worry a lot about, like, okay, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? What's the next
Hmm.
thing? And I'm never
Hmm.
really present in the moment. So I'm
Hmm.
trying
Hmm.
really hard to
Hmm.
be present in the moment and just enjoy every moment. And I really get a lot of excitement out of every moment now. People think I'm
That's
crazy.
good.
I'm like, no, like,
It's
I
the
sit with,
small joys. It's the small joys that make the big difference. You know what
there's
I'm
that.
saying?
And then sometimes I'm like, you know what? I want to go treat myself to a nice dinner. And
Hmm.
I would never do that before. Like, for like 15 years of my life, my whole life was based around whoever I was dating. Like,
Hmm.
their life was my life. Their friends were my friends. I never was Rachel. Never.
Hmm.
I was always just,
Oh,
like, and I don't know. I never got to really, like, build out who I am and who I want to be and how I want to be and what makes me happy. I'm such a giver. I give all of my love and
I
all
know
of
what that's like.
myself to
Hmm.
everybody.
Hmm.
I give 100 to work, 100 to my partner, 100 to
Right.
my kids,
Hmm.
0 to Rachel,
Yeah. I know what that's
Um,
like. Trust me. I feel that like in a very real way, for sure.
yeah.
Absolutely. So I appreciate
So
you sharing that, man. That's I'm glad that you're in the process of working on it and getting better and letting it because it's about coping. That's what it's about. And coping is something that you do consistently. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? It's not a cope and
Yep.
then you know.
Nope, that would be more like, yeah, when you're inconsistent, it definitely puts you back through like a toxic kind of cycle.
Hmm. Yeah.
Because then you have
Yeah.
these high highs and low
Low
lows,
lows. That's true.
So yeah, consistency is definitely important. And I think, whether you're in a relationship or not, you can still
Hmm.
find time to take space and
Right.
say, what do I need today?
Right. Yep.
And ask yourself, like, how am I feeling in this moment? Because usually I'm
Hmm.
very reactive. Like, if I'm upset, I'm reacting to that. And then
Right. Right.
it takes a certain strength to just be like, you know what, instead of sending that text message, or instead of, posting something I don't want to post, I'm just going to
Right.
turn my phone off. I'm going
Yep.
to pull out my journal and start
Yep.
writing because I like to
Yep.
write. Or
Hmm.
I might put on some music in my living room and dance,
Hmm.
real and take videos of myself dancing.
Do
It's
you
just really
meditate?
freeing. Hmm?
Do you meditate?
I haven't gotten into meditation yet, but yoga is my
That's
next step.
that's something I haven't been able to conquer either because I can't sit still. You know what I'm saying? Like that
No, see,
quietness and it's too much. I can't.
I'm like,
But I love yoga. I actually love hot yoga because I like
yes,
the sweating and the class that I used to go to is so far away from where I live.
yep,
And it's just right now at this point it's not something I can because Carlos was on short-term disability in
mm,
December, and they do 66% of their salary. So we kind of took a hit. So we're trying to get back
yeah,
on track. But
yeah,
um,
yeah. I
and
love hot yoga.
and naps, I love napping. Napping is it's the best way for me to quit the day. You know.
Napping is great. Um, yeah, naps. Nowadays, I'll go outside and just go for a walk around my
Mhm.
neighborhood.
Mhm.
I like to do walks. Or honestly, like I like being warm.
Mhm.
So like sometimes I'll just take like a really long shower.
Mm. Yeah.
um,
Yeah. That's
but
good.
like
That's
I've
good.
never had like I've always put relationships over friendships.
Mm.
And in my 30s, I'm not going to do that anymore. Because at the end of the day, whenever I jump from one relationship to the next, who am I going back to when the relationship's over?
That's
So it's
true.
kind of terrible, right? If I'm not valuing my friends more than at least even on the same level, giving them
Right.
as much energy as I give
Your
to a
partner.
partner.
Mhm.
Because my friends, are part of my lifestyle,
Right.
at this point. Like, we call each
They're
other
part of
all
your
the
coping
time.
also. They're part of your
Yeah.
coping also. Yeah.
We're a good group. We have I have 5 friends, which is huge because I had 0 last year.
Okay. All
I mean, I
right.
wouldn't say 0, but I didn't invest in
Mm-hmm.
any last year.
Sure. Sure. I gotcha.
So I have 5 right now. It's a good group of girls, and we support each other. We laugh, we cry, we
Mm-hmm.
talk,
Mm-hmm.
we are vulnerable, and that's really
Mm-hmm.
important to me. It's also just as important to me as therapy. So if I didn't have
Second
my
thing,
friends, yeah.
friendships,
Oh my
outside
gosh.
of it, having a support system.
Yep. Outside of
Support
my
system.
mom.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know,
That's good.
yeah. Yep.
So
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 friendships.
so do you need to go ahead and take a break
Oh no,
and
I'm okay. They're good. I don't hear
okay.
them or anything, so they must be
Because
handling themselves.
we don't want the babies over there, running wild. You know what I'm
They're
saying?
good.
They're good. That's awesome. Yeah, me and Carlos, we don't have any children. We have 3 puppies.
Yeah. Oh, well,
Yeah, yeah,
that's a job.
yeah. Rico actually is 13 and he's starting to show signs of old age, which
Mm-hmm.
is making us sad. Tuesday is the queen of the house because she's the only female in the house. And then Kari is the cutest little thing. He has some of the most descriptive eyes I've ever seen on a dog. And he's my dog. What he does when he was little, I used to lay him like right here.
Mm-hmm.
And now when he comes over, that's the first thing he does. He puts his little nose on his little neck on
I
there.
love
So
that.
and Carlos is really my support system as well. I need to take a page from your book in terms of like getting friends. I have one buddy that I talk to on a pretty consistent basis. And then an ex that I used to date that I'm friends
Mm-hmm.
with now.
Yeah.
And that's really it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I have people in passing that I might communicate with, but I don't have that support group in which I like. Like my husband has a
Really?
huge support group. And I'm also, since the pandemic, I've become more of a recluse. I don't
Mm-hmm.
mind being home and not going anywhere. But sometimes I do find myself getting, depressed. Like, oh, damn, you haven't done shit. Like, you haven't been outside. Me and my husband, we do date night every Friday. So that's and it'll be a week that'll pass. And it's like, damn, man, went nowhere. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is the first
Yeah.
time I've gone out, so I
Yeah.
understand that too. But yeah, it's just finding your path and finding your way. And honestly and truly, podcasting has been something that has really gotten me out of that rut because it allows me to be able to, record what I was thinking at that time. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's almost historic for me because it's not
Right.
the same Reggie that I was, 2 years ago because I started in
Mm-hmm.
2020. So I appreciate the journey that this has made me, and I've actually connected with, there's a group that I'm a part of called Black Podcasters Association,
Okay.
and very good group. And I will tell you, those guys, when it comes to sharing knowledge and making sure that they check on us, they do a very good job. So that's kind of opened my eyes a little bit. But I do wish I had a friend or two that I could, maybe go to the I don't know, go to Lake Eola with or walk around with or something like
You want
that.
to know something?
What's that?
Initially, I started off finding friends by using Bumble. So you've
Mm-hmm.
heard of Bumble? It's a dating
Yeah.
app.
Mm-hmm.
So they have 3 different versions of Bumble. Like you can, or like options, I guess. There's Bumble dating, and then there's Bumble BFF.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's Bumble for business. So
Mm-hmm.
business Bumble, you can network with people who are looking to network. Bumble
Mm-hmm.
for BFF is people that aren't looking to date, that just want to like find friends. So I use Bumble BFF for
Mm-hmm.
initially to like make friendships with people, like girls who, were interested in just meeting up for brunch or what have
Mm-hmm.
you. So I don't know I don't know if it's the same for males as it is for females on that app,
Mm-hmm.
because I have seen men on there and I'm like, no, you're not on here for friends. But
No, I'm good. I'm good.
you
No,
never
no,
know.
no.
You could find someone.
No, no, I'm
There's
good. I'm good.
definitely
No, seriously.
there's definitely all kinds of people on there for sure.
I'm gonna have
And
to check that out for sure. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
I still talk to some girls on there. I may not see them all the time because they do live a little further away, but
Mm-hmm.
when you're lonely or when you're like, you know, they're there because you can text them and yeah, obviously because they're people, but you know, but they're
They're
people,
aliens.
new
No,
people to connect with, you know. And so
they're
it's a
from
good way to
Mars.
kind of expand in the virtual environment.
Right. And that's, I'm glad that you told me that because sometimes I do find my buddy Sam, we've been friends almost 20 years now. And,
Hmm.
it's just, I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to get too deep into that because it'll start making me well up a little bit. But we kind
Oh,
of have
okay.
our differences a bit. But he's a good guy. He's been a really good friend to me. When I lost my mom, he was definitely there for me. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's definitely
So
good to have people.
yeah, yes, it's especially with the year I had. Carlos lost his dad, and I lost my mom beginning of the
Oh
year.
God,
So yeah, so it was tough. It was definitely tough. But
I can imagine.
so um, I want to ask this question, but I want to also make sure that I'm as delicate as possible. So if for any reason, if you're offended, and it's a little bit about what we talked about before we recorded. So,
Okay, cool.
um, not I don't have to tell anybody this, but I obviously identify as Black. I also identify as queer,
Hmm.
as well. So, you know, I'm aware of the experience that I have as a Black man. It's vastly different than most people. And I also understand that there's a level of privilege that I have that's different than African American women or Black women too, that I acknowledge. So I have
Hmm.
to actively do the work to not be, privileged or to uplift my sisters in ways that, they don't necessarily get to. So you and I talked about something. It was very interesting in what you said, and I just wanted to touch on that a little bit. You did describe your ethnicity as Puerto Rican, half Puerto Rican, and
Italian, yeah.
right. And one of the things that you said, do you mind us going there, or
No, no, I don't mind at all. I'm
okay?
excited.
And so you said something about the unique walk that you have as being. I mean, because you are Spanish. I mean, you are Puerto Rican. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, the experience of not being Spanish enough because you don't speak Spanish. Could you talk to me a
Right.
little bit about that experience that we were talking
Yeah.
about?
I mean, so I came from a military background. My family my dad's a Marine, and he was a Marine for 22 years,
Mm-hmm.
and so we grew up in a melting pot,
Mm-hmm.
environment. Moving all over the world, every few years, and so I didn't
Mm-hmm.
really get to make and keep friends a lot because we were moving.
Are you the only
Um,
child?
no, no, I have a younger sister,
Okay.
and she's 2 years younger. So it was just
Mm-hmm.
her and I, and then my mom and my dad. I didn't grow up like near my grandparents. They live in New York and Wisconsin. It was just the four of us. That was our unit.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, where I'm going with this is the fact that I mean, I you know, here's the thing. People say it's rude to say I don't see color. I think I've heard that. But I never grew up being like told like, oh, this is a Black person, this is a Mexican. Like I was never, it was just, you're a person and you're my
Mm-hmm.
neighbor and we have
Mm-hmm.
fun together. Like that's what it felt like when I was a child. And so
Mm-hmm.
as an adult, I look back and I'm like, oh, my best friend was Mexican. My next door neighbors were Black.
Mm-hmm.
My on the left side, on the right side, they were white. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know what specifically. And then, like I grew up with just different ethnicities as my friends. Like, and I never
Mm-hmm.
thought
Mm-hmm.
anything different about it. I never saw
Mm-hmm.
anybody differently. I never treated anybody differently. Like, and so, and so anyway, it's weird to me because when I came to Florida, I lived in a small town in North Carolina,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just different. I came to Florida and people here were very, like I said earlier, kind of cliquey,
Mm-hmm.
and I couldn't make friends. Like
Right.
I was friends with what you would call, if we're going to label things, like the nerds, because that was like the outcasts, the only people
Right.
that would keep
Right.
me
Right.
in,
Mm-hmm.
because the football players didn't want to be friends with me and the cheerleaders didn't want to be friends with me. And
Mm-hmm.
then
Mm-hmm.
in terms of like ethnic groups, like like I'm Puerto Rican, and the Puerto Rican girls would walk around the school like they own the place, and I feel like I want to be friends. Why can't we just be friends? Why do I have to dress like you or act like you? Like, why can't you just say hey and we be cool? But it was difficult to because everybody tried to speak to me in Spanish, and I don't speak Spanish, and so I'm just like looking at them like and it is kind of like it was difficult to not really feel like I could fit in as a Spanish person. So I honestly didn't even like saying I was Spanish, because then everybody says, oh, do you like tacos or, whatever. I
understand.
Do you like rice and beans and plantains? I'm like, I've never had it in my life, So it's just kind of, it sucked because I feel like I'm disgracing the culture, to be honest. I feel like I feel like they look down on me in that way because I don't or haven't, been raised.
You don't have that traditional.
Yeah. So I feel like they, like it's kind of like, oh, she has no respect kind of thing. And I do. I would love to be a part of your world,
Right.
But I wasn't raised that way. So in that environment. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, I came here and I feel like there was definitely a little bit more, I felt like it was just...
It's more noticeable here in Florida. I think, when there's definitely a line drawn in the sand in terms of where you're from. A lot more judginess. Yeah, where you're from, why do you look the way that you look? Kind of, you know what I'm saying? Why do you look ambiguous? Tell me more. I don't understand. And, it happens a lot with Black folks, too, when it comes to colorism and all that other stuff. And, what we think inherently being Black. I know, as a kid, I was called an Oreo, which was black on the outside, white on the inside.
Oh, my gosh. Well, I'd say that's me, but Spanish. Peanut butter Oreo. I don't know.
But the thing about it is these are all labels. At the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? And I would love for us to get to a place where that isn't the case. But, unfortunately, the way this country, is built, divide and conquer is really something strong that, that is kind of developed among, and it's infighting. It's mostly, and I say infighting, like it's mostly us Black people who are holding us to that standard. When Blackness can be many things. Being Puerto Rican can be many things. Being, Italian can be many things. Yeah. So, I'm sorry that that's your experience, honestly and truly, but I never, even knowing what I know about you now, I still think of you as a beautiful Latino woman. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you.
So,
hey, I'll take it. I got the hips, if anything.
Yes, honey, yes.
You know what I mean?
But
so I'm like, you know what? I may not speak Spanish, but I'll take all the benefits of the looks.
And what's funny too is I noticed a lot of people who are raised here in America, they have very similar experiences that way too, because they had to assimilate. So their parents didn't necessarily focus. You could have been in a hardcore Mexican household, but because in order for you to assimilate, to this world, you had to tell your kids to, deny what they were. You know what I'm saying? Right. Because that's going to get you a job. That's going to get you noticed in this world. It's going to give you experiences that you're not going to be able to get if you go and you speak full Spanish. And it's unfortunate, and it's the world that we live in. And like I said, I think you're a rock star, regardless. And I definitely think that you are, doing it. And I think that you're a very good example for your kids to, what it takes to be a good person. Because I see that you're very calculated, with what you think and how you feel and what you say, just with talking with you now and interacting with you in general, I know that it comes from a very genuine space. So fuck what those people say.
The parenting thing definitely has been a struggle, because when you're not 100% good, you can project that onto your kids. So that's why I was really happy that therapy kind of brought me out of that, because I don't want to continue any type of generational trauma, which is one thing that I did kind of learned through therapy that, was, I could see how that affects my family. And so I'm like, I'm going to stop that here. And so, but anyway, so now I can be a better version of myself for my kids. And that's definitely something that, that's really important to me. And I think on your topic of, just celebrating people for being people, instead of just like, oh, you're this or you're that, and all these labels. I would say that I do, at least on in terms of mental health, there's been some big changes in there's growth. It's slow going, but like when my kid was diagnosed with ADHD, and he is on the spectrum, everybody treated it like, oh, there's something wrong with you and we have to fix it. And he kind of got, labeled as like being a bad kid when really he just processes things differently and he needed help. And nowadays they don't look at it that way. Now they look at it as there's not something wrong with you. You're just neurodivergent. So you have neurotypical people and neurodivergency. And that just means that you just think differently and you actually add value because of the way that you are.
You think, right. Yeah.
And that makes me happy because I don't want him thinking that we are giving him medicine to make him feel normal. You know what I mean? Because you're fine the way that you are. And so I had this conversation with him recently. I'm like, honestly, I'm neurodivergent too. And that makes us special because we see something that most people don't see. And that is valuable. And so I would like to think that that the world is moving in the direction of just acceptance for whoever and whatever you are, and maybe not politically just yet, but I think in the communities with people in the real world, I feel hopeful in that.
Yeah. And I'm that was an amazing conversation, that you had with him. And I know it's tough, raising children, and some of the things that they experience, in school. And, unfortunately, we're not their only influence. They have outside influences that we have to, counter, which can make it more difficult. So I applaud you being a single mother you have two children? Yeah,
and they're both boys, which is typical because I have to raise, what's placed on men, like how men were raised in the past versus how they are now. That's a big hurdle to like figure out. Like, I don't want him to suppress his emotions and be damaged later. That's repeating a cycle. So, so it all takes, like you said, being genuine, consistent, open, honest, available, putting in time, and I have to be my best self to be a good mom. So,
right. So, Rachel, I want to tell you, thank you so much. We are coming to the end here of our conversation. I appreciate, the candor in which you allowed us to go there. And, I also appreciate the opportunity, with such short notice that you came on. So that's, completely thankful for you doing that. So before we go, do you mind letting people know where they can find you on social media?
Oh, yeah. So like my Facebook and Instagram. Yeah. So on social media, I'm Rachael Mary Vargas. That's me. And then on Instagram, it's at What Would Rachael Do?
Okay, on Instagram. So
What Would Rachael Do?
And I'll make sure that I get that from you because I'll put that in the show notes. And
okay, cool.
You guys know you can find me, Reggie's Expressions. It is REGGEE Expressions, REGGEES Expressions on Facebook and YouTube. And you can find me on Instagram at Reggie's REGGEES _expressions on Instagram. All right. You guys know where to find us. Every time I do this, this goes to making a good woman proud. She did her best. She wasn't able to speak for herself, so I'm able to speak for her. Thank you, Yvonne Price Garner. I love you so much. And every day that I'm able to do this is my way of honoring you. So with that being said, guys, I appreciate everything that you guys have given us. I appreciate you, Rachel, for staying with me on this episode. And we're looking forward to the next. We're already in episode 9. Can y'all believe that? Episode 9.
Thanks, Reggie. Good
No worries.
job.
No worries. So you
Appreciate
guys enjoy the rest of your night. Thank you so much. And do you mind hanging back, Rachel?
it. Mm-mm.